Today is May the 26th. What was Judas's betrayal? Let's find out together as we read sections from the Passion narratives. In reading through the Bible in a year on Thursdays and Fridays, we look at the New Testament, and we are finishing up the Gospels, looking at the Passion narratives. If you would, please read Matthew 26, verses 1 to 20, Mark 14, verses 1 to 17, and Luke 22, verses 1 to 14. We're going to follow Mark's narrative. All of the stories have their parallels in Matthew and Luke, but Mark has all of them. We start with the plan to kill Jesus. Look at the first two verses of Mark 14. It was now 2 days before Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The leading priests and the teachers of religious law were still looking for an opportunity to capture Jesus secretly and kill him, but not during the Passover celebration, they agreed, or the people may riot. So the decision to kill Jesus is made, but they're going to wait until after the Passover. The next paragraph, someone comes to anoint Jesus's feet. Now, apparently this took place early in the week, and it takes place again. The disciples complain at the cost of the anointing. Jesus says, no, leave her alone. You'll always have the poor. She's preparing my body for burial ahead of time. Now, at the end of this, in verse 10, Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples, went to the leading priests to arrange to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted when they heard why he had come. They promised to give him money, so they began looking for an opportunity to betray Jesus. And then we have the preparation for what we call the Last Supper. This takes place 2 days before Passover. Now, recognize that first century Jews would count days differently than we do. We see a day as beginning at midnight indiscriminately. They didn't. They saw the day as beginning with sunset. So on Thursday evening, they celebrated the Passover meal. This would have been Friday morning, the day of the Passover, the day of preparation. But we would have called it Thursday evening. This was not the normal time to celebrate a Passover. This is the reason they were able to find an empty room, which they did. It's called the upper room. And it was because it was probably booked for Friday, but not for Thursday. This is also the reason why there was no lamb at that Passover meal. They ate what Jews would eat when they weren't in Jerusalem. This probably raised some eyebrows of the disciples at the point that they were doing it. But years later, they looked back and they said, oh, well, of course, he is our Passover lamb. That's why we didn't have a Passover lamb on that first Passover, that first Lord's Supper. Now, Judas goes to betray Jesus. The word betrayal literally means a handing over. It's translated that way in many different passages. Judas' betrayal was literally telling the Jews when they would have an opportunity to arrest Jesus, when he could hand Jesus over in a private setting. Of course, they did that in the Garden of Gethsemane later that very night. What was Judas's betrayal? It was the opportunity for the chief priests, the religious leaders of the day, to arrest Jesus privately. Now, as we read through this passage, two things stood out to me. One was the wild acceptance of Jesus. This woman spent a huge amount of money to have something to be able to anoint Jesus with. Wild acceptance. At the other end, wild rejection. Rejection so much that Judas looked for the opportunity to hand Jesus over. The question that we started with, what was Judas's betrayal, really gets at why did Judas ever betray Jesus? We know a couple of things. We know that Judas, in betraying Jesus, was giving the Jews the opportunity to arrest him. Judas probably also had knowledge of the fact that they were looking for an opportunity to kill Jesus. So was Judas seeking for Jesus to be killed? We also know that when Judas realized that Jesus was on the cross and had died on the cross, he went out and committed suicide. So apparently, he wasn't looking for Jesus to be killed. Personally, I think he was trying to force Jesus' hand, turn him over to be arrested so that he would be forced to reveal himself as Messiah. The bottom line is it doesn't matter, because even that is a betrayal by Judas. Judas is betraying what Jesus stands for. Jesus came as Messiah. Judas was trying to oblige him to be the Messiah like he wanted him to be the Messiah. Jesus said, I am the Messiah, and I came to die. Like, follow, and subscribe to this devotional on whatever platform you use to listen to it. Tomorrow, we'll answer the question, how did Jesus respond to Judas's betrayal?